welcome to another episode of Thinking Like a Bank, where we show you how to think like a bank by applying the same strategies and principles that banks use to help you find more financial freedom in your life. I'm your host, Sari Ibrahim. A few months ago, I was introduced to a company called Waalaxy, which is a LinkedIn and email prospecting tool that helps automate some of the functions of prospecting, primarily on LinkedIn. The chief operating officer and co-founder of Waalaxy, Guillaume Portalier, connected with me, and we scheduled a time for him to join us on this podcast to speak more about his background and how he founded Waalaxy. If you're interested in growing your business using LinkedIn and or starting a tech company, then I think you'll get a lot of value out of this episode. Guillaume, welcome to our podcast.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. I'm really excited to have you on this podcast, considering your background as the CEO of Waalaxy. Before we get into Waalaxy, can you tell us more about your background and what you do today?
Yeah, sure. So I'm 28 years old, and I founded Waalaxy 3 years ago. So back then I was 25. And as you can imagine, I didn't have lots of experience back then. So yeah, I was 25 years old, basically out of a business school, French business school, and where I worked for a year and a half in consulting at Accenture. And so I've decided to launch my company almost right after my studies, but we'll have more on that later, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So you graduated college and then got into a consulting role as an employee?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, can you tell us more about that role? Like, what were you doing and how did it help you launch your company?
Yeah, so I was basically working at Accenture, which specializes into IT industry.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was working for a client where the goal of the mission was to develop a platform, so a digital tool so it was an insurance company, and they needed their agents to have a proper tool to work, basically, so to manage their
Mm-hmm.
clients' relationship, etc., and to
Yeah.
sell the product. So and so I worked as a product owner in that mission. And so my goal was to understand the needs of the clients, so basically this insurance company, and to sort of transform it into more technical features that will then be developed by the consulting team, basically.
Got it. And then do you also have a technical background, or is it just mostly like business?
No, I mean, no, it's mostly business.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm quite into a new tech, so I know the very basics of how it works, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not technical. I'm not a developer or anything like that.
Got it. Okay. And then Waalaxy, can you tell us more about what Waalaxy is?
Yeah, so Waalaxy is software that allows to automate the sales prospecting and on LinkedIn and via email in one sentence.
Yeah, the way I found Waalaxy was I was searching for Prospect In. So is that a former company, or can you tell us more about that relationship?
Yeah, so when we started the company, the product that we've launched first was Prospecting. So Prospecting is the predecessor to
Mm-hmm.
Waalaxy. And we grew quite rapidly when we launched Prospecting, and we didn't expect such growth.
Mm-hmm.
And so after a year where we had more than 50K users, we figured we would need to start all over from scratch because the product was not designed to handle such a massive number of users. So that's where Waalaxy was born.
Got it. So it's a prospecting software. You could use it for LinkedIn and then also email marketing. And I think
No, it's more like cold emailing, which is a bit different than email marketing, where email marketing is more about sending newsletter, for example, and cold email is really like you're trying to sell something,
Mhm.
but you essentially use a limited number of emails. You're not sending like thousands and thousands and thousands of emails, but it's more targeted in a way.
And then with cold, there's no previous relationship, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, got it. So who can benefit from Waalaxy? Like, who is it a good fit for? What type of businesses or industries?
Yeah, the persona is pretty wide because we have students, we have business owners, obviously, recruiters, salespeople, marketing people. Basically, as the use cases are quite wide, you can use it to sell a product or a service. You can use it to find a job. You can use it to recruit people, to test an ID. There's an endless numbers of use cases. So there's almost an endless numbers of types of clients. So it's we have a pretty wide range of clients.
Okay, so anybody from individual small business owner all the way to Fortune 500 company that wants to use LinkedIn to market their brand.
Yeah, but it will be not exactly up until 500 Fortune companies, because in the end, it's more personal users within those companies that are going to use. For example, we have clients that work at Google, but we don't really say that Google is a client for us. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one person at Google using it for, personal use, or even maybe sometimes professional use, but within Google. But it's not like we have a contract with Google, etc., because it remains a small tool. It costs like $50 per month, so it's not a big thing.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so somebody that works for a big company could use it to like recruit people or connect individually people. So I see that. So Waalaxy can be used to automate the connections, right? Instead of having to go one by one connect with people on LinkedIn, it can automate that. It can also gather data, right? It could automatically gather certain data points.
Exactly. So basically how it works is you start with a LinkedIn search where you have identified the people you want to reach out to. And then you import those profiles into the Waalaxy app. And then from there, you start to create your campaign. So essentially what you want to do, you, for example, want to send an invite on LinkedIn. And then 2 days after that, if the person has accepted it, you want to send a message, then a follow-up message 5 days later, maybe. And then if the person did not reply, you want to send an email, for example. So this kind of stuff. So the sequence steps. Then you also have the possibility to automatically retrieve the professional email of your prospects using an integrated software that we have also, that then is used to send email to your prospects. So you don't even need the email of your prospects, because you can retrieve them using Waalaxy.
Got it. Okay. And I'm still new to both LinkedIn and Waalaxy, but what are some of the differences between Waalaxy and LinkedIn Premium?
So how it works is we essentially plug a tool on the platform. So we work in conjunction with LinkedIn, in the sense that we leverage the LinkedIn database. And essentially everything you can do on Waalaxy, you could do it manually on LinkedIn, but it would take you tens of hours and tens of hours. So it's very, very boring and prone to mistakes. The difference, I mean, it's not exactly what we allow. LinkedIn does not allow, in the sense that on LinkedIn directly, you can't automate your prospecting, your sales prospecting. You have to manually add people, manually message people. You don't even have a feature that allows you to bulk message, 10 contacts, for example. So if you want to send a message to, let's say, tens of your contacts, you can't do that on LinkedIn. You will have to copy paste and then manually send a message to every individual. And so LinkedIn Premium, or if we are talking, for example, about the Sales Navigator option on LinkedIn, is basically an option that gives you access to an advanced search function on LinkedIn. So you'll have more filters and your searches will be more precise. And by the way, this is a tool we highly recommend when you use Waalaxy, because it gives you better results. And so you increase your response and reply rate.
Got it. So it's not like it's different from it. It's meant to work with it. So Sales Navigator or LinkedIn Premium are meant to work with Waalaxy. And then when you have those combined, you can even do more things when you have those tools combined together.
Exactly.
Now, I was listening to you on a podcast. I forgot what the other podcast name was, but you were mentioning how when you started the company, it wasn't like you had outside investors or, outside, you didn't grow through shareholders. Can you tell us more about how you grew the company, considering the show is called Thinking Like a Bank? I'd like to get
Yeah.
how you grew the company that way.
Yeah, sure. So coming back from my experience at Accenture, I think one of the big motivators at that time was I just realized how many hours I would put into the work and how little I would get in return, financially speaking. And I saw, the partner at the company that were pretty much doing nothing, that would reap all the benefits, again, financially speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And so I quickly realized that as a quite drive, like I'm quite drive in a way in life, and I realized that if I wanted to maximize that, it would be by creating my own company instead of working for someone else. Because when you work for someone else, even if you're super motivated, at the end of the day you have a salary and maybe you have some bonuses in a way, but you don't have any shares.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're not really incentivized to be a better version of yourself, work harder, etc. So this one was a big motivator. And yeah, indeed. So when we started the company, we had no external investors. So, I was not earning money at all. So at the beginning, it was a bit difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But we were lucky enough to find our first customers quite rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
And so we grew from 0 to 1 million in annual recurring revenue in less than a year. So quite rapidly, we were able to, grow the company without the need of external investors.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say it's probably at that time because we were so immature,
Mm-hmm.
not on a personal level, but on a business level. Maybe at that time, if we had at some point some investors that would have been there, sometimes I think we would have crushed the company, because being bootstrapped and having no external funding
Mm-hmm.
forced us to be super efficient in how we spend money.
Mm-hmm.
And so we always had this idea in mind of, okay, if I invest X, I want a return on investment of at least 2 or 3x within like 6 months. And so and that's why we didn't do any sales, in the sense that we didn't hire any salespeople, and up until now we don't have any salespeople. We prefer highly scalable acquisition channel, such
Mm-hmm.
as a word of mouth, referrals, SEO,
Mm-hmm.
and affiliation. We have a great affiliation program where we share 50% of the revenue generated by the affiliates
Mm-hmm.
for life. So it's quite interesting. And yeah, we really thought hard at that time, okay, how we could maximize the revenue we get to have a return on investments very rapidly as well.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's definitely, I think it makes you more creative, right? When you don't have a venture capital or private equity firm backing you up and, almost like unlimited funding, it makes you really creative with how you're spending your money, what you're spending it on. If you could figure out a way to reduce costs or even eliminate some costs. So I like that thinking. Now, where are your users mostly located?
So as a French-based companies, we have 50% of our users still in France. But then we have also 50% of our users and clients coming from abroad,
Mm-hmm.
mainly in the US, in the
Mm-hmm.
UK, all over Europe, South America, pretty much everywhere in the world, but mostly in the US.
Is it a goal to become more
Yeah,
popular in the?
yeah, definitely. I mean, in the SaaS industry, uh, France is a small country. I mean, overall, and even more if you're speaking about the SaaS industry. So, and clearly the goal is to expand in the US, where we think we've just barely scraped the surface.
Mhm.
So we think there's a huge growth potential in the US, clearly.
God, okay. And how do you plan, like, what are some of the strategies you have in mind for expanding in the US?
Yeah, so we're currently thinking about raising funds um, to accelerate our growth in the US. And we're not exactly sure about which strategy to go for, but either double down on what we were making up until now. So double down on content producing and the product and the customer support, etc., and try to replicate that in the US, maybe by opening a structure in the US or growing a sales team in the US. Also, as French people, I mean, we're not really sales people in France, and I know in the US, you know, they're way better at sales than we are. So it's more in the culture. So it might also be that we open an office there and we hire a sales team of people that know how to sell.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, that's a good observation and a good like difference to mention. I could definitely see that happening in the US, right? Where you have like almost like a call center that calls businesses and does free demos on Waalaxy, free trials, and then actually like directly pushes the product directly to the potential customers. So I like that you mentioned that. And then which brings me to my next question, like how is it running an international company, right? Because you have to think about different laws and different payment systems and different things like that. Can you tell us a little bit more about how it is running an international company?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of laws, it's not that complicated because, you know, we're selling a software, so the law is not really a problem for us. Um, in terms of payment system, thanks God, there's a company called Stripe, and and it's very, very easy. I mean, it's not exactly my job. I mean, it's the developer's job to
Yeah.
integrate with Stripe, but I know it's very well done, and it's not really a huge problem to take payments in US dollars and any kind of currency.
Yeah, I think they've opened the path for that for international payments and things like that, especially with the increase of electronic payments in general. So, I definitely see that perspective. And as far as developers go, when you started Waalaxy, was it all in-house? Like, did you have in-house developers? Everything was in-house, or did you use like third-party companies for the development?
Yeah, we were lucky enough to be four co-founders, of which two are great developers.
Uh-huh.
And so from the very beginning, the founding team was really tech oriented.
Uh-huh.
So that was one big advantage. And another big advantage is those co-founders went to engineering school here in south of France. And basically every year we had two or three people, usually the best of the year, coming in internship at Waalaxy, and then we would hire them. So we have a sort of continuing flow of great engineers coming out of this school. So it's an advantage we have as well. So always internally, no external developers.
Yeah, and that's a big competitive edge, right? That's a big because it's very expensive to go to third-party companies to do app development and software development. I've seen that. I've seen like the proposals, and it's definitely, it's better to do it in-house if you can. If you have the resources, it's better to definitely do that in-house. Now, my next question, where do you see Waalaxy going in the next, I'd say like 5-10 years? What's your future projection?
Yeah, it's really, really hard, sorry, to answer this question. Bear in mind that we are 3 years old. So we tend to see the future as like the next month or the next quarter. So 10 years is way too far to say. Even 5 years is really far to say. But I would say we still have lots of features that we want to add. And we'll probably transition into something like more of a LinkedIn CRM, where we'll synchronize with other enrichment tools, always improve the data that you can obtain with Waalaxy. So I think this is one path that we might take, we could also, I mean, we started to invest in artificial intelligence, especially in creating content using AI. So either creating content from scratch or reformulating content to improve the message, basically. So to improve the conversion rate of messages. And so that's another area where Waalaxy might evolve in the coming years.
Yeah, I like this because it's still, even though it's 3 years old, it can go anywhere, right? It can go into
Yeah,
the CRM world. It can go further into the SaaS world. It's still kind of too early to determine the whole life of the company at this point.
definitely.
And what advice do you have for people who want to do something similar to what you're doing? They want to start tech companies. They want to kind of grow their businesses or within their industries using technology. What advice do you have for those people?
I would say first, if you want to start a tech company, it would be better to either be a tech guy or a tech girl, or have a very good friend that is a tech guy or a tech girl. It helps a lot. Otherwise, there are plenty of, like, there's lots of tools now where you don't even need technical skills to use them. I think of, for example, Zapier, or
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Webflow. You can create your website now without the technical skill required. So you can do lots of things. But I would say one big advice I would have is really focusing on finding clients. And by that, I mean really focusing on identifying a problem and thinking of a solution for that problem, and then trying to sell that solution and find those people that have that problem, and really be focusing on that exclusively up until you have, like, don't overthink your plan. Just focus on those aspects.
And was that the problem you guys discovered, that there was a prospecting need amongst the business world?
Yeah, when we started the company, we had I didn't speak about that, but we had a small project before that where we wanted to develop a tool to basically, it's hard to explain in English for me, but yeah, it was to help business owners for campings, camps, and failed miserably. But when we were working on that project, we thought we would develop a tool that would help us automate our prospecting, and that came prospecting. And so we figured, okay, if we as a typical startup, we have this problem, there might be loads of typical startups that would also have this problem. And it turned out that yes, there are a lot of people and lots of companies having the need to automate their prospecting outreach.
That's smart. Okay, that's good. So you saw your struggles and you were like, this is probably common amongst other businesses. That's a good way of thinking. Now, Guillaume, how can listeners connect with you and connect with the company and learn more about Waalaxy?
Yeah, so if you want to learn more about Waalaxy, it's simply waalaxy.com. So WWW.LAXY.com. And otherwise, you can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. So Guillaume Portalier. It's hard to understand for a non-French speaker, but I'm sure you'll put some links in the description or anything like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'll do. I'll put in the links in the description. That way listeners can just click and connect with you. Guillaume, it was very nice having you on the podcast, and I'm looking forward to speak to you again in the future.
Thanks, Ari.
To learn more about what we do and how we can help you grow more wealth, please visit www.finassetprotection.com. That's FIN, assetprotection.com. The topics presented in this podcast are for general information only and not for the purposes of providing legal, accounting, or investment advice. On such matters, please consult a professional who knows your specific situation.